here's, to me, the number you probably ought to care about the most in this poll. The state of the U.S. economy. 81% tell us they're dissatisfied. This is the second highest number we've ever recorded. The last time it was this high was just before the 2010 election, and you know how that one went.
So the results of the US midterms are trickling in, and we can see the fix was well and truly in. I predicted that the Democrats would allow the Republicans to make some gains, but there was no way in hell the two main fights they were going to let the Republicans win. One was Fetterman winning in Pennsylvania and the Senate race, and the second was Hochul losing in the New York governor race. Now, let's just focus on those because we don't know what the results of everything else is. But just on those, I mean, Fetterman, I mean, he's dealing with, if anyone's been to the main city in Pennsylvania being Philadelphia, was always horrible, but now it's like extra nasty. It's like beyond nasty. How could anyone vote in that city for the incumbent person, for the person currently running it? Same with New York. New York, I have friends who visited for the first time as their honeymoon. They went there, him and his wife. He'd been many times. He took her for the first time. And she said she stayed in a hotel and they ran away to Vegas, and they stayed in Vegas. They didn't go back to New York, even though he had planned lots of things in New York. She hated it. Hobos on the streets, everywhere, drug addicts. She said she saw someone shooting up in her face, broad daylight. I'm telling you, I've seen it myself. I'm there regularly. It's there. It's the middle of Manhattan. It's crazy. How would anyone vote for the same thing? And then we couple that with, we're going to see the news segment soon. The main issues for people was inflation, was the cost of living, was the economy. When you look at the CNN left-wing polls of what most, are you satisfied or dissatisfied, highest dissatisfaction rating ever. Biden, 40%, the lowest, lower than Trump's rating for a midterm, Absolutely diabolical statistics on their polls, on left-wing polls. We're not talking about Fox. We're talking CNN, MSNBC. People are dissatisfied. People are upset. People are spending, cost of living is through the roof. They say 9%. We all know it's 20% for everything, right? Fuel, food, housing, rent, mortgages, whatever you want has gone up insanely. And wages have not kept up. So it's not like the 70s. 70s, they go, oh, well, the 70s was worse. Yeah, it was worse. But their wages kept up. That was the problem with the 70s. That's why they couldn't get inflation down, because wages kept on going with inflation. So therefore, you could never get inflation down. Now, wages are stagnant or going up slightly, and yet rampant inflation. People are still voting the incumbents, the people in power. I wouldn't mind if you told me, listen, I wouldn't mind if you told me there was a Republican in charge and they voted Democrat. That would make complete sense, because I would say, I'm so furious with what's happening. I'm now going to vote for the opposite party, right? Because I'm furious. As we've seen in Italy, they just voted a right wing. They love calling it far right. She's not far right. A right wing party in Sweden for the first time ever in their history, ever. They had a right wing party now. In the UK, huge majority Boris got just a year and 2 years ago. Very, very right wing. In Israel, just now voted probably the most right wing government ever, right? In Israeli history. And everyone's voting right, yet America seems to stay with that left wing wokery, where they're not even, like the left in Europe is nowhere near as mental as the left wing in America, right? We're dealing with literal psychopaths. And yet they voted it. I don't believe for a minute these are true. I believe 100%, I'm sorry to say, 100% it was rigged. There is, no, just like 2020, there is no way you can win those races in Pennsylvania and New York, where they're both horrid places to live. New York, the most people that have left a state in America, the state that lost the most amount of people last year. I mean, what tells you how bad things are when things like that happen? The most taxed already. Hobos walking everywhere. Why? With remote working, everyone's moving to Florida, nice Republican states. Why? The businesses, Tesla moved out from California. All these businesses moving out to the South. Yet somehow you're telling me people are voting in droves for these crazy incumbents. I don't believe it for 1 second. Let's see the statistics. I just can't believe it.
Feelings about the way things are going in the U.S. This is a bleak picture from this electorate. Look down here. 39% dissatisfied. 34% are downright angry. That's 73%. 3/4 of the electorate tell us they're dissatisfied or angry. Only 5% enthusiastic. 20% satisfied.
So now you're going to ask the obvious and fair question, which is, why didn't they rig all of them? Well, the answer is like the Enigma machine in the World War II. When the British found the Enigma machine, they refused, which translated the German code. So they could listen in and they understood every single German command to anywhere in the world. Sink this ship, shoot this guy, bomb here, do that. They could have got involved in all of them. But if they would have done that, it would have revealed their hand. They would have shown, someone's basically is listening into our conversations, because every single thing we plan gets stopped. So they only allowed it to be used for major operations. So when a convoy, a shipping convoy was hit, if it was 2 or 3 ships, they wouldn't care. They'd let thousands of sailors die. But if it was the whole convoy, then they'd get involved, send in ships, either stop the convoy or do something like that. So that's how they did it, in order to not reveal their hand. And that's exactly what the Democrats have done. I just told you the 2 main things was to make sure that the Senate, firstly, doesn't go a Republican, because they're aware that the House is going to go Republican. So the House proposes regulation, and then the Senate confirms it. So you could have impeachment of Biden in the House, but then, like Trump, it'll get blocked in the Senate, and then therefore it goes nowhere. It's just it's a game, right? Which is what they did with Trump. It's all a game there for TV. But if you lose the House and the Senate, then he actually goes to jail. And so then you have a really big problem. So they would never allow both of them to go. And that's what they did. And also the governor of New York, it's a big trophy prize. It's a very important thing. Now, even though it lost when it was Republican with Giuliani, which is 2002, 2004, I don't know when he left. But that was the last time it was ever Republican. But now it's like, it's Wokeville there. So there's no, I'm even shocked that they allowed that. I mean, they couldn't rig that one. Now, with electronic voting, and remember, America is the most undemocratic democracy in the world because they allow ballot harvesting, illegal everywhere else. Blanket postal voting, which means everyone gets a postal ballot. Remember, there's only in certain states. Other states, obviously, it's banned. But I'm saying the states where it's allowed. Ballot harvesting, blanket postal voting, no checking of ID. You walk in, they can't ask for your ID. I mean, you can't buy a beer in America without an ID. You can't even buy cigarettes. I still get ID'd for beer. I'm serious. I don't even know why. But yeah, that's how it is. And no check of signature either. You could sign Mickey Mouse. You have to sign your ballot. Sign it Mickey Mouse. They can't check it. So it's an absolute fraud of a democracy. No real connection to a real democracy where 3 people are there, they check your ID, they give you a ballot. Postal balloting is very, very rare, very limited to disability or people like that. Everyone else has to come in. If you can't, we don't care. That's a normal democracy. But here, clearly not. So that's why we get these results.